so done. I am done with all of this. I'm done with all of the uncertainty. I'm done with this pandemic. I'm done with the politics stuff that's going on. I'm done with like all the racial injustice. I am just done and I'm exhausted. So I know that's how a lot of people are feeling. And I have people who are asking me, is this normal? Like, do we all feel this way? And what I have seen over the last, 10 months here is this is where we're at. We're depleted, we're tired, we're exhausted. So this presentation today, we defined those things in our last one. Today, we're going to talk about how we deal with this depletion. How do we deal with all of the frustrations and the burnout and the exhaustion that we feel? So, if you've missed the first part, that's really what we discussed and defined, and I'll try to throw in some terminology and things like that throughout the course. But really what we need right now, and I described in the first time around, was I had this surge box under my desk, and I'm sitting working at my computer, and a beep just happens, and I have no idea what it is. I'm thinking something's going to explode, and it was the surge box for my computer plugs, the big black box. And it just said, I'm done. And I feel like that's just a metaphor for where we are. And I had to go buy a whole new one. I didn't even know those things blew up, but when they go, they make a really, really loud beep sound. And so really, we need to find new strategies to manage the chronic stress, the burnout, the ambiguous loss, our compassion fatigue, the trauma, the exhaustion, because these are all the things that we're feeling. And we're feeling a little off balance. We're not sure when all this is going to pass. The uncertainty is a lot for us right now. And we talked about our problem solvers, which probably most of us are. We're in helping professions. We're usually like the problem solvers. And we're having even more of a struggle because we're used to being able to solve these things, and there's new things. You have to pivot every day and like new information. And so that's really challenging. So we need to take better care of ourselves. And that's what we're going to talk about. If I can make my mouse work. Okay. Hang on a second. Sorry, guys. My mouse did something funky. Okay, so part of re-energizing ourselves is we have to name what we're feeling. We have to name that we're exhausted. We have to name that we're burnt out. And we have to normalize that experience. We have to say, oh, well, when we're burnt out, this is hard. We're tired. We're not on the top of our game. We're not doing as well as we've done before. So, and then we have to put in perspective. Is this going to last forever? Is this always going to be how life is? I'm hoping not. I'm thinking that everybody we're all hoping that we'll get back to a point when we could do meetings in person. And I'm hoping that these Zoom presentations don't last forever, because I'd like to see all your faces and us interact. So putting in perspective, this is something we have to do for now. And then let's reality check our expectations. What am I expecting? We've got the upcoming Christmas season here. The Christmas holiday. What are our expectations about Christmas? Should we just reality check that? What's really going to happen? And so the things I didn't talk in our last one was numbers 4 and 5. So 4 is build in, and it says it. See, I'm not on the top of my game on my slides, but build in rest and recovery time. So we have to acknowledge that we get tired. We have to acknowledge that we're struggling, right? We have to do all that. And then we have to figure out, what is rest? What is recovery? What does that look like for each of us? And then we have to stay in fit emotional condition. And to me, that's really hard, because, I can go and I'll be like, I'm going to walk every day for a week and I can get there. And then the next week I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that. So it's like the consistency can be really a challenge, right? But we have to figure out, how are we going to learn in this discomfort that we have? How do we do that? How do we stay sitting and understanding this uncertainty is something we're going to have to do. But we know that the world is always changing. And so we have to sit with and understand that part. So it's figuring out, how are we going to stay in fit emotional condition? What are the things that we need? And do you guys know, does anyone know what's an example of something, a strategy that somebody uses to stay in good condition? And my chat box disappeared, so it's back. Okay. Is there anyone who wants to jump in and say what they use? Anybody? Exercise. Someone listed exercise. That's a great one. We have scripture reading, prayer. So I'd also throw in there like meditation as well. Dogs for walks. Journaling, meditation, exercise, art. Okay, guys, these are great examples. And there's some people who are like, exercise doesn't do it, and other people it really does, right? So we have to identify what it is for each of us individually too. So thanks for sharing, guys. I like that. So here's our strategies. So I have a friend and he talked about, he was like, you know what this is? This is emotional PPE. We've got to build some emotional PPE. Here's another couple good comments. Venting with like-minded people, being with friends, support system. Yeah. So we're coining this emotional PPE terminology. And if you can see behind me, there's some PPE behind me for the hospital. And we have that, right? Because we want to be prepared. So part of this process is every day building like a bank account. We talk about a resilience bank account, emotional PPE. What are our skills? What do we have in our toolbox? All of those things. But I think some of it really is like recognizing the grief experience, that there is loss that's happening. So we've talked about that before. Expecting a little less from ourselves. Finding activities that are still fulfilling. Like making sure we're paying attention. It's time to take the dog for a walk. I need to do that because I need to build some emotional PPE for me. And doing things that are good no matter what. So our brain deals with the world in that future, in the here and now. And so when we start doing projects and building things and creating things, it starts to help us feel a little bit more right with the world and right with ourselves, a little more accomplished at times. So we've got this resilience bank account. This is a slide from last time as well, but I wanted to bring this back. So we look at the 3 domains that impact us. And that's our cumulative stress of work in our personal lives, the external pressures that are coming. And then we look at, okay, what are our skills, the abilities, the genetics, the things that we have inherently are like the things we were born with or the skills we've learned and developed. So we have those 3 domains. And we can look at those and say, where is this coming from? What do I have within my toolbox? We can look at that, right? And then we can build our resilience bank account. Sorry, every time I split the slide, I lose the chat. So hoping if you guys are chatting on here that I'll pick up on those quickly. But practicing skills can help us build our reserves and create a positive impact. So there's this whole idea of this resilience bank account. So what are the goals of a resilience bank account? What do you imagine those could be? I mean, we want to build our fitness, right? We want to build our emotional fitness and have that in our bank account so that when things hit the fan, right, we've got some stuff. We've got some stuff accumulated within us that we can go, oh yeah, well, I can manage this stress because I made sure I exercised, or I got enough sleep, or I ate well. I've been practicing my meditation and the mindfulness for a while. That connection to other people has really built up that bank account for me. So in times of emergency, I can rely on all those things and experiences that I have. And it feels, when I look at this, it feels like a lot of pressure, because I don't know about you. How many of you are getting amazing sleep right now? Anybody? I see no hands going up. Why aren't we getting amazing sleep? Does anyone know? Any ideas? Worry. No sleep at Christmas. Yeah, exactly. At any Christmas time, no sleep. But even this year, in stress, exactly. Politics, right. Really, there's just a lot of that, and it interrupts our sleep. So what this Michael Mattis talks about is, he talks about practicing 2 of these habits that we don't currently practice. He's like, let's incorporate 2 in that we can just work on small steps. Like, if you don't get perfect sleep, maybe you get 5 more minutes of sleep instead, of like 5 more. That's a good movement. Like, we don't want to shame ourselves into going, yeah, I'm not even building my resilience bank account. I'm not working on my goals. I'm not doing anything, because that's even worse. But just looking, and it includes this self-compassion. It's really important that we look at what is our relationship with ourselves, and is it okay that I'm not as accomplished right now, or I'm not on the top of my game right now. It's time to be okay with that. Somebody's going to comment. Come on. I think that's Carrie Pugh. You're the only one not muted, but if you have a comment, jump on in with it. Okay. Oh, she just muted. Sorry, Carrie. I didn't mean to call you out.
Sorry, I just joined on this instead of my phone, so.
Perfect.
I wasn't muted yet. Thanks for reminding me.
No problem. So yeah, somebody said the monkey mind. Absolutely. Worry about getting it all done and keeping staff motivated. So worrying about the people around us too. These are then combination of illness, family stress, Christmas time, like the holidays, all of this. It's a lot, you guys. So when we're building our resilience bank account, and somebody earlier commented too about the importance of nutrition. It's so true. And isn't this the time that we eat worse? I know I do. I eat worse at Christmas time than I do any other time of year. Like, could my neighbors stop bringing me candy? It shows up every day. And I have an aunt that lives close, and she keeps delivering me all the candy that comes to her door. She's like, I don't want this. So it's really being and when we're in stress, we just like picking up that candy is really easy, and it's not good for us. So a lot of this requires intention. So it's just, if everyone could right now just think, what is one thing, I'm not even going to say 2 right now. What is one thing that I could change right now and just go, I'd like to do a little more of that. I don't want you setting a big measurable SMART goal right now. Just maybe I could go to sleep a few minutes earlier tonight, or maybe I'll just have a little bit more compassion for myself and recognize that this is stressful right now. Just that. So just think of that one thing. Okay, I'm hoping everyone's got it. So I'm going to go to the next slide. So here's the question. How many of you guys play all the time? Anybody? Anyone play a lot? Just, you can raise your little hands, or you can unmute for a second. How many of you are good at play? Okay, how many of you are not good at play? Okay. Why is play important? What is play about? Somebody plans to play. Hey, that's good. That's good. That's actually okay that you're planning to play. You have to be intentional about it. But yeah, what is play? Play is defined as time spent without purpose. Okay, so I think of when I was a little kid, you know, I'm growing up and I'm in this neighborhood and we have people who are all, you know, around and there's kids. I could run down the street and we could all jump on our bikes and we could play around, and that was play, right? And we didn't realize that that's just what we did. We just played. Well, play calms our nervous system. It lowers our blood pressure. It increases our longevity and our lifespans. And we're hardwired to play. So we need it. So this isn't just a waste of time. I'm like, okay, if I'm in one place, I'm always doing something. So there's always a purpose to what I'm doing. And if I'm watching a movie or something like that, like I always have something with me. That's how I get my Christmas cards done right now. So it's always something going on. So really what play is about, it's not having a purpose. So how many are comfortable with that? Who's really comfortable? Yes, somebody. So Tony, hi Tony, glad you're here. She said, I wish to play. I think adults at play is seen as irresponsible in our culture. It absolutely is. Absolutely seen that way. And so that's why we have to understand this is for our life. Like it's so important that we play because it helps us live longer. So I think Lori's unmuted. I think that's where we're getting some feedback. Unless Lori, you want to tell us, oh, she muted again. I was like, if she wants to tell us how she plays. Yeah, somebody else said, I don't think I even know how to play. I make all activities have purpose. So then make the activity of play the purpose of relieving stress. Like knowing I have to sit here and do something fun, play a game, because it's going to help me be able to be on my game more. Whatever you need to tell yourself, it's important to have fun. You know, I thought for a long time play was not something that was an adult activity. And I have a large group of friends. I started reaching out to them and said, you guys, if I don't play, I'm going to lose my ever-loving mind. And we just started playing and we do ridiculous things. And it is a lifesaver. It changes everything about how you feel all the time. So that's what I'm going to challenge you guys to. Okay, then we'll talk about emotional literacy. So Mark Brackett, he came up with this ruler method, and it's all here. You guys can read, and I would encourage you to just learn more about his method. He has a great book called Permission to Feel, but he talks about this emotional literacy and our awareness. So R is that recognition of the emotion in self. And the nice thing about his stuff, his work, is he talks about recognizing that emotion in other people. And I think that's one of the switches as well. He's like, let's look at what that emotion is in ourselves and in those around us. And then understanding emotions, knowing the consequences, the causes, labeling them properly, then expressing them. So, and this again is about having relationships where you can express or hear the expression from other people about their emotions. And then the final R is regulation of emotions, which involves accepting the feeling and preventing the feeling from overpowering us. So let's take this example. There's some in the chat about the culture of play. right? And our beliefs about it. So I'm tired. I'm recognizing that emotion. I'm understanding if I don't play, if I don't, if I don't take care of all this pressure, this burnout, then I'm not going to be on my game. Then I'm not going to do as well. Then the things that I try to accomplish are probably going to fall flat. So let's label this feeling properly. I'm going to label this as burnout. I've been caring about things for a long time, for too long. I've depersonalized them. I'm feeling that sense of burnout. I need to really express it. I'm going to call my friend Tony and I'm going to say, Tony, you know what? I am so burnt out. And I need you to hear me. And Tony comes back and goes, I'm feeling burnt out too, Jen. And we're like, you know what? Let's work on regulating our emotions. How is this burnout not going to accept us? Let's go out and play. What can we do to play? Let's start planning how we're going to accomplish this play. Where should we go? What should we do? Is this like girls' weekend? Whatever it is. And we really don't get a lot of that, like that training on how to be emotionally literate and how to say, Tony's in too. Woohoo! We just don't know what to do to play. We really don't, you guys. And it's part of this emotional regulation. I can't say that enough. Sundance is putting out a movie about play to adults to say, you guys, we have to change this culture because we have to play. Okay, and I'm going to go through this next slide really quickly. But these are like the list of core emotions. Brene Brown, she's doing research on core emotions and emotional literacy. So this is from her website. And mainly when the research is done, the 3 feelings and emotions people can name are sad, glad, and mad. And so we're teaching. So it's teaching our students, it's teaching the clients we work with, but it's also teaching ourselves, what are the other emotions that exist out there? What might those be? So that's just a quick slide there. But the next little bit, we're going to talk a little bit more about the stress response cycle. So at the beginning of stress, we're saying, I'm at risk. Here's a stressor. There's demands placed on us. And then in the middle, we get in action. We get in the fight, the flight, the freeze. And this is where we really get stuck most of the time in the stress response cycle. So we get stuck in the social appropriateness of it. So somebody says to Lisa, hey, Lisa, your project was really terrible. And you're in the middle of a meeting. I know, look, and in the middle of a meeting, you can't say that. You just have to sit there and look very, well, thank you for that amazing feedback. That's so helpful. And inside, you're like, I'm going to punch you in the face. You're the worst. Do you know how much work I put in? You are the worst, but you can't. You have to be appropriate. You have to sit there. I'm not going to freak out. I'm going to listen. And then you get out of that meeting and you walk out and you're like, oh, I have another meeting to go to. Oh, I've got to go do this. Oh, I've got a client. I've got whatever it is. I got to schedule these 20 kids for their classes. And then we don't revisit that emotion that happened, that fight, flight, and freeze. So that desire to punch this guy in the face is still sitting there. Unmute, Lisa.
So I would say that then sometimes that emotion leaks out if we're not able to appropriately express it. And then other people become victims of that emotion. Because then we go into our next meeting kind of,
Yeah. And then that just builds that middle port, that builds what's going on right there in the middle, and we're stuck more. Or another example is, have you ever walked by a construction site and had a bunch of guys like whistle at you and wanted to go, hey, you're disgusting. But you're like, there's little old me and there's all of them. I'm not going to make a comment. I'm just going to keep on moving until I get to somewhere safe. But then that emotion is still sitting in there. So there's a lot of us that get stuck in this social appropriate zone, which is also about that culture that we're mentioning in regards to play. We're trying so hard and striving to meet those socially appropriate norms and expectations and what we can accomplish, that we don't always get to the end of this stress response cycle. It just sits with us in our bodies and stays there. So the agitation is there. And that's the whole, like, I go home and kick my dog. You know, somebody in my Psych 101 class forever ago talked about, you know, that's the example of you go home and you kick your dog. I'm like, be nice to your dog. But in the end of when we finish the stress response cycle, we're safe again. And so it's Lisa saying to somebody, you know what, that guy, he was so mean to me and I really didn't appreciate it. And I'm going to acknowledge those feelings, but also in my body, like this fight is stuck in me. So what am I going to do to release that physical feeling as well? And that's the trick and I think that's where we get stuck a lot, because that is still sitting in there, the fight, the desire to punch him in the face, and I don't punch people in the face because I'm socially appropriate, but there's a desire there, right? And so this woman that wrote this book about burnout, she says that it's the secret to unlocking the stress cycle, burnout. She talks about emotions being like tunnels. So there's this visual. You have to walk all the way through the darkness to get to the light at the end of that tunnel. And a lot of us are stuck in the middle of that tunnel. And that's where those physical feelings, they're stuck right there in the middle of the tunnel. And we've got to get to the other side. And there's some trickiness to get there. So I've lost chat. There it's going. So these are the things that research is showing that these women have researched, completing the stress response cycle. And it's awesome. Like this slide, I'm like, this has so much information on it, because we all have, if we go back to that earlier slide where we talked about, we have each our own individual way to be in fit emotional condition. So we each have our own way of completing our stress response cycles as well. So Lisa and I have been in the meeting and I've heard that this guy said Lisa was terrible. And then I was in the next meeting with Lisa and she's like super annoyed with everybody. And somebody made a good suggestion and Lisa's like, that's a terrible suggestion. And I'm like, I know, Lisa's stuck in the middle. She is in the middle of the tunnel. Her stress response cycle is in full force. She is there. She's ready to fight everybody. And so I'm going, you know what, Lisa, after work, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go dance it out today. We are going to dance it out because that works really well for me. Okay. And I'm a terrible dancer, you guys, like it's terrible, but exactly. Woo! Let's go dance it out, because physical activity is one of the best things we can do to get through the stress response cycle and really complete it. And that's running. I don't like to run. I don't want to run, but I can dance it out. I can walk. I can stand up. So Lisa can't she's got another meeting to get into and she knows she's in the middle of that dark tunnel and she is frustrated and her whole body is like in that tense mode. So one of the suggestions is you stand up and you tense all your muscles. Just very momentarily tense everything up down to your toes and then slowly release all of that and let go of all the tension that's there. And it's a moment. It's not going to get you through the complete cycle all the time, but it's going to reset you just a little bit so you can move to that next meeting, because later we have to dance it out, or we have to go on a run, or we have to go on a walk, or we have to do some primal screaming. I even talked to a client a couple weeks ago, and she was like, I am so incredibly stressed. And we went through this whole thing, all the different ideas. She's like, I want to break stuff. And I was like, you know what? There's those places. You can go and find a place where you just go and buy like a pound of dishes or something. They charge you by the pound and you just chuck plates. And they put you safety goggles on. They do all of it. But our bodies, we can't just say to our body, listen, body, I'm going, like, we're done. Nervous system, just get back in place. We can't do that because that's not how our bodies talk. That's not how our nervous system communicates. So that's why this physical activity works, is that we have to talk to our bodies the way that our bodies talk. So that's why breathing works. I mean, how many of you have told clients or yourself, let's just sit and breathe for a few minutes, to slow down for just a minute and slow down that nervous system? Right before presentations, I've done presentations for 10 years or something. Every single time I have to do some breathing or something to slow down, or you guys, I talk fast already. You would hear me talk so fast if I was in the middle of that. My nervous system starts going, okay, run, so we can get out of here because this doesn't feel entirely safe. So that slow breath in and out and really engaging that parasympathetic nervous system, it helps. That's why yoga is so great. It's this amazing thing. And then the positive social connection. So if we have a positive connection and I say to Lisa, that dude was a total jerk in that meeting, she's validated, and that connection, like our limbic system's communicating with each other, we start to feel better. But the one that I love, one of them that I love is the deep belly laugh. So like that is laughing till you cry or pee your pants. This isn't like ha 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 laughter, because that doesn't do anything. Your body's like, what are you trying to do? Your body, you laugh so hard that you want to pee, like you're like, I'm going to pee my pants or I'm going to cry. That's the laughter that says to your body, oh, like we're really safe. We've completed this stress response cycle and we're feeling safer. And what's interesting is even if we reminisce about it, so I have a friend and we took a picture and there was 3 of us in this picture and we look so ridiculous in this picture because we were laughing so hard. And she's like, I'm taking a selfie right now. And like, it's terrible. It's the worst picture. It's all blurry because we're all moving, but we're mouths wide open and we're like crying, laughing so hard. And she'll send me a text of that picture just to be like, hey. And my body changes because I reminisce about that night and I go right back to that place when we were literally at 2 a.m. at a bowling alley, hysterically laughing and we couldn't stop and we're doing a selfie and we look like we're idiots. I'm like, we're in our 40s and we're doing this. That changes everything in my body. Just that. So reminiscing about those times can really help. So I put that picture on my phone, like I have it in my phone. And if things are rough, I'm like, I'm going, and I send her a text and go, oh my gosh, just miss you, just laughing. And it changes. And then affection. So here's another really good one, is that warm hug in a safe context. So it's 2 people standing together and hugging and breathing together. So that's why the 20 seconds, don't count, because if you're counting, you're not focusing on anything else but the numbers. But it's just until you're relaxed together. It's that hugging, that affection, and just sitting. And that's why those hugs from like a friend or like my kids, I give them those 8-second hugs and hold on tight. It changes our nervous system. It reminds us that we're safe. And then the big cry. So the one I would like is you dance it out. Then you start laughing at yourselves because you're terrible dancers till you're like crying. And then you have a big cry. Because if you can have that big cry and you release all of that, that big cry isn't going to last forever. You're not going to, you don't have to cry and like cry for days. It's not the wallowing cry, but it's that cry, when you just feel like, oh, it's the ugly cry. And something changes. And you have to, in your head, you're not going, and then this and this and this and this and this, and you're feeding all that negative, and everyone hates me, and that's fine. And blah, blah, blah. It's crying and letting your stress out of your body. And then to calm down, you're back to your breathing, going, I'm going to breathe. I'm going to bring myself back. And maybe then you're going to do a nice 20-second hug. But we can build all these together. And they operate on their own as well. And then that's that creative expression. And it's not just like the art that you make, but in therapy, we talk a lot about like the narratives and what are the stories. So let's talk through the story. It's that empty chair thing that changes us because we have that creative expression. We have to sit and go, I want to look at this person and I want to tell them how I feel, but I know I can't really socially appropriately tell that person. So I'm going to put the guy that keeps whistling at me, the guy in the meeting with Lisa, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say, you know what I want to say to you? And I'm going to tell him everything because I can use my imagination that way. That's a creative way to get this out. So I'm hoping those things make sense. This slide is something that I've sent to my clients. I'm like, you guys are in stress mode. Let's talk about all these areas. And I'm going to send you this one slide. And they have loved it. It's been something that has changed a lot of people's abilities to really manage the stress that's happening right now in this world and this uncertainty that we're living in. So, and somebody's asking about getting the slides, Michael, and I'm happy to share the slides with everybody. I have no issues with that. And somebody else talked about a physical activity being chopping wood. Yes, that's a great one. Yes, Shannon, punching someone in the face, that thought sounds amazing. I've also, when I've said that to people, they said punching someone in the throat is way better because they can't breathe and then they can't hit you back and you can run. So throats are better than faces is what I've learned. I've never tried it, but imagining that and using my creative expression, I go, okay, throat punching, run. That sounds great. So the thing is that's important is stress isn't the problem. That's not the issue, guys. Stressors are going to happen. We're not calm and safe all the time. And because we complete that stress, we end that meeting, Christmas ends, that doesn't mean that the stress response cycle is complete. Our bodies still have those things inside of us. As much as I hate that concept, because I hate this, you guys, like I hate it. I hate thinking that stress sits in my body because I'm like, I want to walk out of the situation and be like, stress gone, move on. That feels so much more efficient. But that's not how our nervous system works. That's not how our bodies are created. And so we keep these things. So we have to actively take care of ourselves. And so wellness is a state of action. Like it really is. We have to ongoing change what we're doing. That's about the sleep. Like, I wish I could just sleep one night and then I'm good forever. Like, that would be really nice. I don't really appreciate the way that these bodies of ours are made. And I'm learning how to do this. But our bodies will tell us how we've completed the stress cycle that we have. And just incremental improvement and overall feelings starts to say, okay, this is working. It's not going to happen in one run. It's not going to happen, quickly, but it's this slow process. And then once we are Once we are starting to feel better, we then can do the maintenance. But right now, my guess is a lot of us have a lot of that stress, that burnout sitting within us, and we need to focus on this a little more. So that's that nutrition, that's the adequate sleep, that's the, I'm looking at the comments and I'm laughing. That's that emotional PPE, that we're doing in the practice. Like, keep going, keep practicing this all the time. That's this tensing everything up and going, okay, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to breathe and I'm going to do my meditation. It's wellness practices and continuing to do them. So it's taking care of each other and supporting each other in the practice of managing this stress. If anything that we have learned in 2020 that I have learned that I want to carry with me is it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have it all. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to just say, you know what? I'm just tired. Like, I am just wiped out, and just to acknowledge my feelings and have some compassion for myself and for the other people around me. And if I'm like, hey, Lisa, you and I, we're going to dance it out. We're going to have to dance it out like 3 times a day for this next little bit because we have been super burnt out. So we're going to have to do this. And, we're going to get better. We're going to start to incrementally feel better. And I think that's important. Okay. Hang on. I don't know where the rest of that. Oh, look, I didn't know I put these in, you guys. Transitions. Whoops, sorry. And I know we're out of time. So if you guys want to hang in just a few more minutes, I'll go through just a couple more slides. Okay. So, and if you have to jump off, I understand. And thanks for attending. And Michael, there's people who would like the slides. So if you can do.
We'll send out slides and links so they can watch the tail end of it also on YouTube.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, so shared traits among stress-resistant people. It's this sense of personal control, which I laughed at because I'm like, we have no control this year. Everything's changing all the time. But it's really the sense of control that I have control of myself right now and what I can do for right now. And really that can be just changing the batteries in your smoke detectors or the light bulbs in your house or having enough toilet paper. Like, how ridiculous is that? So you're not wiping with the leaves in the backyard, like having some control that helps you feel better. And we have to get a little creative about it. Lisa's losing it right now because of the wiping in the backyard, but it's true. So, and then a pursuit of personally meaningful tasks. Let's be engaged in our own lives, right? What are some things? And that can be that I'm learning how to dance it out. Healthy lifestyle choices, the eating healthy foods, the exercising, and relationships. In all the research that I've done, I present on trauma and trauma-informed care and resiliency and, the stress response cycle, all of it. Every single thing that I've ever talked about is about social support and connection because it's so important. Emotional literacy, it's about that relationship with other people and finding the connections. Those are so invaluable. Like, they're so important. They're priceless, those relationships. And what I worry about is that a lot of people are saying, I'm going to cut off the relationships with other people now because you don't agree with me 100%. And so screw you and everybody's canceled. That's not going to do us any good at all. And not everybody is going to have the same opinion as you. And sometimes we need to challenge each other. That's my little soapbox there for a moment. But suggestions are, let's take a break from social media and take a break from the news. We do not have to watch the 24-hour news cycle. Let's practice that gratitude. Again, I can't say it enough. Let's play more. Play, have fun, laugh, let go of this perfection expectation. So again, it comes back to how do we manage our expectations? Check those. If you're expecting perfection, good luck, because it's not going to happen. And you don't have to have it all together all the time. Let's learn to be authentic. Let's just be real. Like, you guys, I have learned to be ridiculous and real. And I don't know how to do it any other way now. And we have to sit with our emotions, be kind to ourselves, be kind to those around us, and then identify places and people who create space for you to actually feel. Like, that's those safe places. You know, in EMDR, we talk about like having the safe space, you know, and really solidifying that in our minds. And I think that's something that we can each do. What is that safe space for us? What is that memory? I mean, really, one of mine is that picture of my friends. Like, I can go there and I'm like, I can go to the next meeting because look how ridiculous, like, and how fun how much fun we had. And the last slide, my mouse moved around, you guys, and went somewhere else. The last slide is a Mr. Rogers quote. Because I don't know about you, but I love has Mr. Rogers on it. I love Bruce Perry and I love Mr. Rogers. But Mr. Rogers said, people have said, don't cry to other people for years and years. And all this has ever meant is, I'm too uncomfortable when you share your feelings. Don't cry. Don't cry, because everybody else is, uncomfortable. But instead, I'd rather have them say, go ahead and cry. I'm here to be with you. I'm here to sit with you. And how awesome would that be if we could all say that to ourselves as well? Let our stress response cycles complete. Sometimes the big cry is the best thing that we can do. Staying emotionally close to others while creating this physical distance during this holiday time when everything looks a little different, it's really important. It's really, really important. So I do, at the end of this, I have all the references in your slides. I have another Mr. Roger quotes, because some days doing the best we can might fall short, but we're not expected to be perfect. I'm not going to be perfect. So doing what we can with what we have is the most we should expect of ourselves or anyone else around us. And I think that's just more true in this year. And I hope those are the things that carry with us. Like, forget perfection. And when 2020 ends in just a couple weeks, all this may not be done. All this uncertainty isn't going to be done. I guarantee that. Like, I have to accept that right now. But we can change ourselves regardless of what the calendar says, regardless of what's going on in the world around us. We each have that ability. So I'd refer back to our list of how to complete that stress response cycle. Try them out, practice them. Do the 20-second hug. Just try those different things. Go on a quick run. It's freezing outside. Run up and down your stairs. Get your heart rate going and start changing that stress response cycle. And no, it's not going to happen in one moment, but it will happen if we can just keep on trying. So thank you guys. And here's your references, all the resources. Michael, you can send that out to everybody. I'll send you just the PDF version of this whole presentation. So I'll send that to you, Michael. So thank you guys. And my chat went away, so here it's back.
Thank you.
And if anybody needs to, I'm just trying to steal the screen from her here for a second.
Oh yeah, take the screen. I don't know what you're showing me here.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, there's my contact information. If you need my email or anything. I know, like Sharon asked about CEUs. Some of you I saw on here, you may have gotten a link from someone else to join us, and I don't have your emails. So just send me an email and I'll get you CEU certificates sent out to you on those. If you guys need any helps or questions, please reach out to us. We know it's a hard time. Some schools are only getting to see kids half the time, and we know there's issues out there. Please, if there's anything we can do as a hospital to help you in your areas, please let us know. And we've got resources. We just need to start making those connections and getting everybody on the same pages and stuff. So thanks for joining us. And we're going to try to, again, we're going to try to do this once a month and have different topics and stuff. So we'll just keep you informed of what's going on. So thank you. Thank you. See you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
This was great.
Thanks so much for coming.